The MLB trade deadline just passed, so that means fantasy baseball is heating up. We have hitters, pitchers, and prospects for you off the waiver wire. Let's go. Now, before I jump into the pitchers really quickly, I do want to thank you guys for supporting the show as always. As you know, I always like to mention that over 80-90% of our viewers have not subscribed to the show. I appreciate you guys for watching, interacting in the comments, but if you can hit that subscribe button, I would appreciate it greatly. If you are subscribed already, thank you so much. Thank you for commenting, liking the video, and of course, sharing it with your friends and families. All right, now I know the fantasy season is heating up. You guys don't want to wait any longer. Let's jump into these pitchers. You thought I wasn't going to wear the hat backwards? Come on now. As a Mets fan, this first pitcher hurts me dearly, but I'm leading the waiver wire pitchers with Atlanta Braves Spencer Schwellenbach. Add into the pain is that the reason he's on this list is because of the damage that he did to my Mets hitters, who, for what it's worth, have been pretty on fire lately. So Spencer really did his damage. Spencer pitched 7 innings versus the Mets and only gave up 2 hits, no runs, and 11 strikeouts. 11 damn strikeouts. If Spencer can be more consistent in keeping the runs down, it would be great. But if not, he's still a solid pitcher to have on your squad. Another pitcher whose last game was fantastic is Ryne. The Diamondbacks pitcher tossed 7 innings of no-run baseball paired with 9 strikeouts and only gave up 2 hits. The Diamondbacks also won that game 17-0, so it was a wild one, no doubt, and Nelson was a big part of that, as well as another player that we'll be mentioning later in today's episode. He was also a big part of that game. We'll get to him. Similar to Spencer, though, if Ryne can keep up at this pace, we have a really good pitcher on our hands. Get him on your rosters. Now, I know I'm a Mets fan, but hear me out on this one. Manaea was cooking. All 3 of the pitchers mentioned today have some really strong games recently. If they were more consistent in certain areas, honestly, they wouldn't even be waiver options. They would just already be rostered in every league. Hence why we get to highlight them here, remind you guys that they belong on your fantasy teams. Manaea pitched 7 innings, gave up 0 runs, also had 11 strikeouts. It also happened to be his best game of the season so far. He has to limit the games that get away from him from a runs perspective and strike out batters at a more consistent clip, but he 100% belongs on your fantasy rosters. A couple of honorable mentions for you guys, some guys you could be stashing on top of those 3 that we just mentioned. The Angels just recently traded Luis Garcia, and that's great news for Ben Joyce, who we can guess will work as our Angels closer rest of the way. High upside opportunity at this point to get on your team and get some more saves. And also Max Meyer, he wasn't great his first game back, but he was pitching decently in April, so no reason to give up on him this quickly. The Marlins will pitch him the rest of the season, I'm sure, so knowing the upside, he's worth adding. Just be realistic about the expectations. Let's go ahead and move on to the hitters. Now, we have some really fun hitters on the list. I'm excited about this list today for the waiver wire. The trade deadline definitely shook things up in fantasy baseball, and one player whose stock went up is Xavier Edwards. Jazz is smashing for the Yankees right now, but that trade did lead Edwards to being the new leadoff hitter for the Marlins. Xavier has 12 hits, 4 RBIs, 5 runs, 1 home run, and 5 stolen bases in the last 7 days as of this recording. That is fantastic. Clearly, he's not going to be a power guy, but Edwards is proof that you don't have to be a power guy to make our waiver wire list on the show. Speaking of power, Suarez has been cranking them with 5 home runs in the last 7 days. Now, while power hitters aren't the only players on our list, they are definitely going to help you make our waiver cut every single week. Suarez also has 10 hits, 9 RBIs, 9 runs during that same window, so he's producing at an awesome clip right now. The downside to Suarez is the strikeouts, of course, which can make him fairly risky, but with the right type of upside for you to take the risk. Another player that was affected by the trade deadline in a good way is Josh Bell. He's now a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks, which will give him a solid opportunity to continue his hot hitting. Bell, with 9 hits in the last 7 days, has 4 home runs out of those 9 hits and 7 RBI, so he's bringing some extra power to Arizona. It's funny because before the trade, the Marlins, obviously in their youth movement, were going ahead and placing him on waivers, but if he can get consistent reps in Arizona, he's well worth being on your rosters and in your lineups. Some quick honorable mentions for hitters: Colton with 12 hits, 9 RBIs, 8 runs, 2 home runs in the last 7 days is a strong stat line. Landing Colton on our honorable mentions list, just another Orioles player that you need on your rosters. And Austin Wells, the Yankee, filling in for an injured player isn't always easy. Being a 25-year-old rookie in New York, the big city of dreams, wearing a Yankee jersey makes it that much tougher. But man, Austin Wells has really stepped up at the plate as a starting catcher of the Yankees. He's definitely worth an honorable mention on your waivers. Now it's time for us to go ahead and get to the prospects. Not so fast. Before we get to the prospects, you guys know we got to do our weekly side mission. Before I do that, I do want to share some of my favorite comments from last week. You guys know I love chopping it up with you in the comments. So anytime I see comments that I like, whether they're just entertaining, funny, or if they are completing our weekly episode side mission, I'm going to share them on today's episode. My first comment here is from Thomas Ramirez 718. He said, "The Muppets, LOL. You just brought me back. Good show, bro." That was about the Waka Waka Waka. Shout out to him for catching that and knowing exactly what I was talking about. At the Bears 30 said, "Nah, that hat doesn't look demented. Keep rocking it even harder now." Shout out to you, man. I appreciate you for that. I really do. Also, staying along that line, shout out to at Drink Beer and Travel. Sweet name too, by the way. He said, "Looking fresh." I appreciate that. We also have at Jaza Paza 6365. Great video. His underrated pitcher for the weekly side mission was Brady Singer. Not sexy, but has been solid all year. And his underrated hitter is Alec Burleson. He said, "I had a hole at first base and he bailed me out." Shout out to Alec Burleson, man. We also had at Stephen Kelly 6620. Shout out to you again. He said, "Nick Lodolo is super underrated, and for a hitter, you already know is that bad man Jake Berger. Said it last week. He is gonna eat." My boy is consistent. I appreciate that and respect that. Those are my favorite comments for the week, guys. I appreciate you for always chopping it with me. Again, as I promised you guys, I will never miss a comment. I will respond to every comment you guys put down there. Your support, love, dedication, it really means the world to me. And I just love continuing the conversation, whether it's questions or whether you're just chiming in to something we mentioned on the episode, whether you feel like we missed something, whatever it is. I appreciate that love. This week's episode side mission is I want you to drop in the comments your favorite trade at the deadline for fantasy purposes. So not like your team's, best trade of your team or a team that you think improved the most, just for fantasy baseball purposes only. What do you think was your favorite trade at the deadline? Go ahead and drop it in the comments. Again, certain comments will make next week's episode. I appreciate you guys as always. Now let's go ahead and get to the prospects. Now, our two prospects this week are very popular names, guys that we've talked about plenty, but I got to bring them up again. The first one, we talked about him a bunch. It may be too late for you at this point to snatch him up, but if Jackson Holliday is available in your league, pick him up ASAP. He played today as of this recording. He actually hit a grand slam for his first major league home run. It doesn't get much cooler than that if you ask me, and you definitely want to have this guy to finish out the back end of your fantasy baseball season. I know it was struggle city for him the first time when he was called up, and I know that really concerned some people, but put that in the rearview mirror. Let's start fresh with Jackson Grand Slam Holliday. My second prospect for you is Junior Caminero. How much longer do we have to wait for this call up? Honestly, I mean, he has been great in the minors. I know he was injured for a little bit, but he's good now. The fans have waited long enough. I think we've all been patient. It's time for the Rays to reward us all. The team was active during the trade deadline. This is honestly the best sign for him. They moved players out of town, leaving plenty of space for Junior to move up and get comfortable. I mean, honestly, Junior should be called up and be given regular playing time at this point with the guys that they moved out of there and made space for. So if that's the case, you have to go ahead, stash him now. I know it's been dragged out at this point, but you can't wait any longer. If he's still there, get him, stash him, and get ready for the fireworks to begin. Now, I got to ask you when it comes to the prospects, which prospect do you like more, Holliday or Junior? Just for this season, which prospect do you trust more, Jackson Holliday or Junior Caminero? If you got to this point in the episode, you guys know I love and appreciate you more than words can express. I really do. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead, hit that subscribe button. If you already are subscribed, don't forget before you bounce to hit that like button, catch other episodes on the channel. I really appreciate your support as always. Go ahead and share this, by the way. Throw it on X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you want to put it. We really appreciate the support. Thank you for joining me as always. I enjoy continuing our discussion in the comments, so go ahead and drop me a line down there. I am out. Peace.